Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Safar, and for this episode and the next 6 episodes after this, I'll be flying solo. The reason is because recently I've been getting a number of questions from business owners saying, how are you advising your consulting clients right now to get ready for what's coming? And I've been very vocal on the podcast over the last year that I believe there are a number of things that are going to impact the coffee industry at large. And those things have started to happen. Things like inflation, things like economic strain, supply chain issues, etc., etc. So while we've been preparing our clients for quite some time on Map It Forward, and particularly the one-on-one consulting, what we do want to do through the podcast is give you access to some of that information, particularly the 7 main things that we have been doing to prepare clients for a very challenging 12 to 24 months that is coming ahead. A lot of the things that we've been preparing clients for have started to eventuate, and I'll talk about that over the span of this series. Today, though, we are starting with number 1 of those, and that is business fundamentals. So, you ready? Let's dive in. This podcast is brought to you by Map It Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/Map It Forward to find out how you can become a member today. Okay, so when we talk about business fundamentals, we're talking about 3 specific things. What's your vision? What's your mission? And what are your business's values? Now, usually whenever I start working with a client, I make sure that these 3 things are solid, and it takes a lot of work to define these things and outline them. But as we're coming into this very challenging time, we have been working with each of our clients to make sure that the things that they have defined as the vision, mission, and values are still relevant, or perhaps they're not. And if they're not, what are the new versions of those things? So today we're going to go through a little bit on exactly what those 3 things are and how you can go about defining them for yourself. So first of all, let's talk about what the vision is. Now, the vision is, what are you trying to achieve in the business? What's the vision long term that you are looking to see this business achieve? And the vision needs to be almost like your reason for existing. Now, when you look at that vision, what needs to happen is an understanding of how it ties into the other 2 elements of your business fundamentals. So if you understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, that's your vision. Your mission is why you're doing it. So essentially, what problems are you solving with your business? Now, the reason this is important is because it gives you clarity on a day-to-day basis for existing. And if you don't have clear understanding of why you exist as a business, it is very, very easy to get lost in a whole bunch of different tangential little things that capture your attention as a business owner. And where we see this happening a lot is when different social media movements hijack your reason for existing as a business, whether it be a socially conscious movement, or it be a supply chain movement, or it be a political, or a bunch of other reasons. We've seen many, many of these things exist over the last number of years. That is going to continue to grow as we see more strain put on the coffee supply chain. Now, if your business doesn't understand its long-term vision and it doesn't understand what problems it's trying to solve, then that leads into the 3rd thing, which is the foundational part of decision making in a business, and that is the values. So we spend a lot of time, I specifically spend a lot of time with clients talking about what the values are, and I get them to pick 4 at most main foundational pillars that formulate their values. The reason this is really important is because it helps you drive your decision making. And everything gets brought back to the values when it comes to any decisions that need to be made. And so if you are confronted with a decision, the more challenging it is, the more heavily you get to lean back on your value statements to help you make those decisions. So is the direction that you're going with the business aligned with your values, or does it betray your values? That's the first test. If it's in alignment with your values, then you can ask the next question. Is this aligned with our why? Is this aligned with the mission that we're on? Are we fixing the problems that we set out to fix? Or are we being distracted and addressing the problems we decided we wanted to fix for our customers, for our industry, for our supply chain, for ourselves as a business? Are we staying on course for that? Or have we been distracted? Are we avoiding perhaps hitting a very difficult patch in the work that we're trying to do? And then we get to ask the third question. Is this in alignment with our long-term vision? Now, that's not to say that your vision, mission, and values can't change and alter. Of course they can. But it is a big deal to change and alter these huge philosophical pillars of your business. Now, why is it so important to understand, simplify, and really hold true to these three foundational elements of your business? Well, because you need to be able to communicate this to your staff. You need to be able to communicate this to your customers. You need to be able to communicate this internally within the leadership structure and with your suppliers. More and more customers are looking for value-based businesses. Not only the value that you contribute to them and to the world at large, but they want to know the values that you operate by. What's driving your decision making? And a coffee-focused business that can lean into that, whether it be around sustainability, whether it be about building community, whether it be about supply chain practices, the more simplistic, transparent insight you can give your customers on how you want to be represented when it comes to your values, vision, and mission, the more open they're going to be to making a decision whether they want to engage with you as a business or not. So that's the first of our 7-part series on the 7 things that we are heavily focusing on to help our consulting clients get really clear and focused on how to be ready for what I believe is a very, very challenging 2 years ahead. And the reason I think that we have very challenging years ahead is because of all the things that I said at the top of the episode. Deep financial woes with regards to global economies, with regards, for example, inflation, stagflation, all that kind of good stuff that's not such good stuff for businesses. We have supply chain constraints that are getting super challenging because of geopolitical issues, because of logistical nightmares, because of a pandemic that seems to not know how to stop working, and a lot of other downward pressure on our production side of things. So, for example, inputs into the supply chain, and we're going to talk about that in an upcoming episode, but the inputs into our supply chain are escalating in price and availability exponentially thanks to the geopolitical situation over in Russia. More on that in the next episode. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you got a lot out of it. If you did, consider subscribing and sharing this with your friends. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks friends, if you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.